Good morning from the National Weather Service in Raleigh. It's 11:30 on Friday, December the 7th, and this is your winter storm webinar regarding the storm that's going to affect much of the state, quite frankly, this weekend into Monday. So just kind of going through some of these slides real quick here, and then I'll show you timing like we did on yesterday's briefing. So this is a multifaceted, multi-hazard, multi-impact event. We've got snow and ice, some wind that could result in some, few down trees and power outages. The trees come down, the power outages are likely to happen. Hazardous travel will be dangerous, if not impassable. Particularly, the impassable part is mostly, from the triad north and west and north of I-85. And then, of course, we can't forget about the locations that stay liquid. Flooding is a possibility, and area creeks and rivers are already running higher than normal. So there could be some renewed minor flooding, again, south and east of Raleigh through early next week. So we're going to kind of dive into each one of these, and of course, the hazards, the threats, the impacts, they're certainly elevated to, if not significant. So, when is this all going to start? Well, this graphic here we added in earlier this morning, to show when we think that the snowfall may arrive. Now, again, this is based on last night's data, and winter storms are always in need of being tweaked. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So let me just switch screens to another way to convey that. I showed these graphics yesterday. I think most people sort of enjoyed these, seeing this timing. But what we're looking at right here is we're looking at two different models. Okay, we're looking at simulated reflectivity, like where the rain or snow would be falling, and then also it's color coded based on the precipitation type that the model is anticipating. And you can see we're focused mostly on central North Carolina, but you can see out west a little bit into the mountains and the east near the coast. And the model, same time frame, but the model on the left is is what's known as the Global Forecast System, the American model, the GFS model. The model on the right is a higher resolution, more detailed, takes into effect more physics and thermodynamic or temperature profiles. So it's a little bit more higher detailed, if you will. What I can't show on here is the European, unfortunately, because that's not Weather Service data, so I'm unable to show that. But I think these two models, these two data sets, really paint a picture of two possible scenarios that really aren't too far apart. So I'll just jump right to 1 p.m. Saturday. So, the onset looks like it's going to come in as rain, and very light rain at that. So this is the time frame for 1 p.m. Saturday. Again, both depict 1 p.m. The model on the left is the GFS model. The model on the right is the North American model. It's a high-res model, so a little more detail in that. So anyway, you can see that, where's the snow falling by Saturday afternoon? It's falling west of Interstate 77. So you really have to get west of really into the western part of the state tomorrow afternoon to see that snow falling. For us, if you have outdoor plans tomorrow, I know, like I mentioned yesterday, there's a lot of activities, parades. I know of at least 3 or 4 different parades going on across portions of central North Carolina. Yeah, it might be. I'm not expecting a whole lot of rain with this. I don't think this is going to be problematic. I would say go ahead, enjoy your parades. Maybe take an umbrella just in case there's a little bit of rain. Now, the model on the right, which is, like I said, a higher resolution model, it's starting to hint that maybe we might get a quicker changeover. But I don't think this is going to amount to a whole lot. So if you're looking at this blue and saying, my gosh, this is so much earlier than we were originally thinking, don't get too concerned at this point, because watch what happens when I go to the next time frame. Boom, 7 o'clock. It kind of backs off a little bit, at least in the northern part of the area that I circled. And the point is that the air mass is very dry. So so the air up here is incredibly dry, and a lot of this leading edge may not even hit the ground. A lot of that leading edge of the precipitation is going to be wasted just to moisten up the lower levels of the atmosphere. And that's ultimately what's causing it to go from green to blue, because when, you precipitate into a dry air, it cools the air mass. So anyway, this initial early onset activity we're expecting to be, and even if this is falling, is snow, I think it's 7 p.m. tomorrow. I think it's going to be fairly very light and not much of a problem. So as we jump ahead to 10 p.m. On the right, notice it even goes back to a little bit of rain as it lightens up. That's the dry air working in and eroding some of that precipitation. By 1 a.m. though, we start to really start to see the precipitation shield expand north and intensities increase. By 4 a.m., it's yet increasing. By 7 a.m. tomorrow, you'll notice there's not tomorrow, that's 7 a.m. Sunday. Not 7 a.m. tomorrow, 7 a.m. Sunday. Definitely Sunday here. So you'll notice this is in fairly good agreement here. I mean, there's reasonably good agreement between these two models that it's going to be snowing across most of central North Carolina. I think this is the period, from sunrise through mid-morning where we see some of the heaviest precipitation rates and snow rates falling. Especially as you get west of Raleigh. So that's from sunrise through about mid-morning, and then watch what happens. There's 10 a.m., there's 1 p.m., and you'll notice that the model on the left is colder in a sense that it keeps the precipitation type mostly snow across basically west of I-95, whereas on the higher detailed model, it starts to indicate a mix, if you will, of freezing rain. And then you could see all of this right here is all rain. So the other thing I'll point out is that watch, even on the model on the right, north of I-85, you'll notice it stays all snow. Okay, so that's one thing that we've been mentioning for days, is that if you're north and west of I-85, look for all snow throughout the duration of this event, that it's probably going to be, those are the areas where we expect the heaviest accumulations to occur, and that would include the western portion of North Carolina as well. But watch what happens. Again, here's Sunday afternoon, and you can see there's hints that that freezing rain line begins to spread a little bit further north. And then by let me clear this out here so I can advance. Bear with me here for just a second. Sorry about that. And then by 7 p.m. Again, here is that one key thing I wanted to mention, is that mainly north of I-85, you'll notice on both models, that's where we still see it mostly snow. Maybe a little bit of mixture as you head back towards Charlotte, but mostly snow. Now look at the rain. It's mostly rain, along and east of I-95, maybe even east of US 1, south of the triangle. So even on the colder model, it has the rain snow line almost back to US 1. So the point is, I think the takeaway here is that the real problematic area where, there's a couple things I can really that jump out. North of 85, it's mostly snow. That's where we're going to have the greatest accumulations. East of 95 and generally south of Highway 64, it's all rain. No worries there. Okay, so if you're in Sampson County, if you're in eastern half of Cumberland County, most of Wayne County, I think you're going to be fine. If you're north of 85, it's all snow. You're going to see it pile up, maybe double-digit snow amounts. It's this area in between, maybe over to US 1. So from US 1 to I-85, there's a high degree of uncertainty in this area because there's going to be multiple precipitation type changeovers during the afternoon Sunday. It's going to go from snow to sleet to freezing rain to rain, back to maybe sleet to snow. This is one of these events where it's rate dependent. When it comes down really hard, that will increase the likelihood for frozen, that is snow or sleet. Okay, if it lightens up, then the warmer air, the marginally warm air, has a chance to do its job to melt things, and then it has a better chance to go to rain or freezing rain. Okay, so when it's coming down hard, it should be either snow or sleet. When it lightens up, we're talking rain or freezing rain. And how much? It just depends on the rates in that area. Again, from I-85 to US 1, maybe even over to I-95, this corridor right in here. That's really, really the tough forecast, because it could be any number. If it's coming down real hard, then it stays mostly snow. If it stays lighter, then it's mostly rain, and it's not much of a big deal. So anyway, I'm going to erase that and go back so we can move forward in time. Here's 10 p.m. Actually, that's 10 p.m. on the right. And you'll notice there's some disagreement here in the models by 1 a.m. Monday. The NAM model clears all the precipitation, whereas the GFS model keeps it going. But this would be very, very light. By 1 a.m. Monday, whatever's left is really just light precipitation. The other tricky part of the forecast is what happens on Monday. On Monday, there are indications that low pressure may re-strengthen or redevelop off the coast of South Carolina, and that could keep some precipitation going across portions of central North Carolina. So the further you go north of Raleigh, the better chance on Monday during the daytime you stay dry, but those areas will have already had double-digit snow amounts. So it's just going to be a mess north of there regardless on Monday. And the degree to which there's any types of accumulation on Monday will just depend on again the strength of that developing secondary low and how much cold air is in place. So Monday's a tricky forecast, but suffice it to say it's going to be a mess anyway, precipitation or travel condition wise for a large portion of central North Carolina. So that's the way we're seeing things timing wise. So let's just go right back to the slides real quick. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the slides since what I just shared there and the simulations I think cover most of it. But this timeline map kind of shows you that today and tonight, decent weather, time to get ready. Saturday, things kind of sort of go downhill. Light rain, begins to spread into the area. You should be finishing up any preparations by sunset. And then Saturday night and Sunday is really the worst of the weather, where we have the precipitation occurring. Heavy snow north of 85, a mixture of precipitation types between 85 and US 1, and then just heavy rain east of there, where there could be some flooding issues going on. And then Sunday night and Monday, we're just dealing with the cleanup and maybe some lingering light wintry mix possible on Monday. Okay, and then how much? That's the $1 million question. Let me just jump to this statewide map. And I'll be emailing these slides out to everybody that has all the slides, and the ones I skipped as well. And you'll see that transition area in the dashed area. Okay, so we're in between that dashed white line. That's the problem where there's the greatest uncertainty due to the mixed precipitation types. Slight shift in the storm track can have huge impacts on accumulation, but I think, as I pointed out, I think we're fairly comfortable in saying that north of 85, that's where you're going to get the heavy, and west of 85, that's where you're going to get the heaviest snow amounts. There could be, early Sunday when that snow spreads, in this general area, there could be a little bit more maybe than what the map shows early on Sunday. We're taking a look at that. We may have to update this area you see highlighted in yellow, but certainly east of I-95 and generally south of Goldsboro, I think it's a mostly rain event. Maybe a little bit of this light snow amounts getting in at the very onset on early Sunday morning. All right, so that's the challenge right there. What happens, and that's always the challenge. This storm system is really no different than many others we've experienced. Okay, now I mentioned there could be a time where we see a little bit of a mixture of freezing rain. If any of that freezing rain accumulates, this is what we're looking for in terms of amounts. We're not expecting a lot of it because if it does switch to freezing rain, that's going to be partially a result of the reduced precipitation rates. Remember, as I said earlier, if the rates increase, then it's probably going to go back to snow or sleet. So this is ice accrual due to freezing rain. I think when the freezing rain occurs, the precipitation's generally going to be light. So that's why these numbers are fairly low. And that'll be on top of what snow has fallen anyway. So this will put a crust if it happens, we'll put a crust of ice on top of the snow that's fallen. All right. The other thing I wanted to mention is it's going to be pretty gusty on Sunday. These are maximum wind gusts. So, I would be shocked if there wasn't any power outages. I'm sure there will be, whether it's a down tree or whether it's snow and ice accumulating on lines and trees. A branch breaks off and knocks down a power line, something like that. If you're east and along the coast, it's going to be pretty windy along the coast. There's going to be higher winds along the Outer Banks and in central coastal areas with 35, 40, 50 mile an hour wind gusts. So definitely some power outage issues. A little bit of minor ocean overwash all across the Outer Banks and down East Carteret County. So that's a whole separate concern. But definitely even the places where it's just rain. Again, that area east of I-95 and south of Goldsboro, even where it's rain, there is a concern that certainly with the wet grounds and these gusty winds, there could be some power outages. Okay, so this map here, or this is our storm summary. Again, major winter storm likely. Confidence is pretty high, but the accumulations, our confidence is usually low anyway, or moderate at best, because of that transition line. Again, as I pointed out, north of 85, including the Triad region in Roxborough, is the best chance for all snow and the greatest accumulation amounts, more than 8 inches. Again, some gusty winds with that and some power outages. When you go east of I-95 and south of Goldsboro, that's the best chance for mostly all rain. Again, Sunday morning there could be a little light coating of snow with that early onset precip, but again, watch out for those down trees and power lines. And then that area in between, the triangle, the Southern Pines area, surrounding areas, again, varying precipitation types. If the rates stay high, then it could be higher amounts. If it stays low, it could be more of a mixture of freezing rain and some rain. So either way, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be gusty winds as well. So again, power outage is a possibility as well. I don't want to leave out the point that also that there could be where it is just rain. So we're talking the southeast portions of central North Carolina. There could be some localized poor drainage and flooding issues. I want to briefly, real quick, if not to keep you any longer than I don't want this to be a long briefing, but I think it's worth pointing out that certainly on the Cape Fear River, here's some river stages, and these are long range. These are not, this is more of an experimental product, but just know that some of the ensemble members show the Cape Fear at Fayetteville maybe going into flood stage, Lillington getting close, Little River at Manchester. This is more ensemble members than we saw yesterday going into minor flood, so it shouldn't be a big deal. But again, the last thing we need is more heavy rain and flooding, and that's the deal there. Deep River at Moncure, again, getting close to flooding there, and you can see that whole basin, Cape Fear Basin, is going to get some, quite a bit of rain and impacts. Now, clearly, here's the Neuse River, and again, if it's more of a rain and less of a snow and freezing rain event, then certainly, there is some indications in the models that we could see the Neuse River get right back up again into minor or maybe even moderate flood stage. That's Goldsboro. The amounts are a little bit less as you head west because of the more of the frozen precipitation type. But where it's rain, my point is where it stays all rain, there could be hazards and impacts anyway, just related to flooding concerns. Okay, so don't let your guard down if you just get rain. Okay. So anyway, that pretty much wraps up the briefing. We'll be sending out updates to our PowerPoint briefings, and 5 things I want to leave you with. Snow and ice can vary greatly over short distances. Winter forecasts can change frequently. Focus more on the storm's impacts rather than the exact number. Know your weather terminology, watch, warning, advisory, what that all means. And finally, rely on dependable sources of weather information. There's a lot of stuff floating around out there on social media, so make sure your information sources are chosen wisely and follow a name or organization that you know and trust.